says it's live though right now, so I'm gonna go to my Safari. Wait till some guys get in. It says it's live now. Let me guys get in. Okay, I'll mute this. What's good, everybody? Appreciate you guys coming to the live stream. As we're going to be covering some big things here, going through the schedule of the RFL, as well as players to watch out for and preseason predictions and stuff like that. Unfortunately, we don't have Preston with us. He actually is watching an NCAA basketball game, so I guess he's in a cool place. I guess he don't care. But I'm here with Mike. What's good with you?
What's going on?
And so we got Mike in the building. It's just going to be us two going through with the schedule and everything else so far. So we'll just get straight into it. Let me make sure that I got the screen share up so that way we can just go straight to the way I'm going to show the schedule is that I'm going to do it weekly. So you'll be able to see the games, all the games for the week. Is it showing up right now, Mike?
Yep.
All right, cool. So we got the games up here for the week. And I'll show you, of course, the ones we're not going to see. There's going to be just an imbalance of the amount of games each team will have throughout the preseason because, like there's some teams that only play one RFL team, so they'll just have one preseason game. But that's just how it's going to have to rock out for the preseason. But I believe most of the teams that people are on has a good amount of games, so that's pretty good. But like I said, what I'm going to do is go through the list through week by week, and on top of that, I'm going to go ahead and try my best tomorrow to try to post these on the individual sites that I have on the website. So, like, if you click on the logo on the RFL teams, it should bring their page up. And then the schedule should be, like, right on that home page. I'm going to try to make sure I get that done and out the way tomorrow. So, without further ado, we're just going to go through the schedule here. First, we're going to go through the preseason. And we got to go through each conference first, though. So right now I'm in the AFC conference. But week one in the RFL, as you can see here, the first game they have listed is the Orlando Sentinels taking on the Bisons. So that's a really good game going that we'll be able to see this week. For guys who don't know, I'm planning on actually doing Monday's game. Where I'll have two games actually. So I might do two games on Monday, two games on Thursday to bring some Thursday night football back, and then two games on either Saturday, on Friday or Saturday. So still thinking about that, but we will definitely have a game on Monday. As I've said, the Huskies versus the Voyagers. Make sure you guys come out for that one if you're free. But here we are, week one, Sentinels, Bisons. We got the Cougars and the Conquistadors, and then third, we got to keep going down, and the Huskies versus the Voyagers. So those are the three games for the AFC that we have so far. Everything else is, switched up, not non-RFL teams versus each other. So there's week one of the preseason. Don't worry about if I'm going fast through this because it's going to be on the website as soon as I'm done. I just want to make sure I get through this, as fast as I can. But week two of the preseason for the AFC, we got the Voyagers back at it again, traveling to Oklahoma City to take on the Bison. So right there, that's two back-to-back games for both the Voyagers and the Bisons. Then after that, this looks like a really good game. The Aviators versus the Celtic Tigers, two big-time playoff teams. Both have made the playoffs 2 consecutive years in a row, looking to, of course, this season to make their third. Then we have the Armadillos versus the Dreadnoughts.
Let's go.
Like that one. Salt Lake City Pioneers. This will be their first game, as well as the Armadillos, I forgot to mention, and the Dreadnoughts. But the Pioneers will be taking on the Riverhogs, which should be interesting. Of course, after I go through the schedule, I don't know if I said this already, but we'll be talking about key players to watch out for and things in those games. But we'll just talk about week one first. We don't want to go down the whole list. But let's see what else we got. Then we got the Black Knights versus the Sentinels, week 2 of the preseason. And I think that's the only game that the Black Knights are going to have in the preseason, to be honest. I think the rest of the games are against NFL team, so they don't have any other games.
Hmm.
And that's it for week 2. So moving on to week 3 of the preseason for the AFC side, we have, let's see what we got here. I go down the list because it's my first time seeing it as well. Dreadnoughts taking on the Celtic Tigers, which should be a good one. Remember, these two faced off in the playoffs to compete for the AFC Championship title in the playoffs. And, of course, the Celtic Tigers ended up coming up top with that one and advancing to take on the Red Dragons. And now here they are. Should be a good matchup week 3 of the preseason. Next, we have the Bulls getting their first action. So Coach Kamba, getting his first taste of coaching here in the preseason against the Armadillos. So this one should be, I think, a really good game as well. And then we have the Sentinels versus the Pioneers and the Bulldogs versus the Red Dragons. That should be interesting because these are both the last 2 RFL champions. Yeah. That should be very interesting. So that definitely should be a game to watch right there. And then finally for the preseason, for the final week, let's see what else we have. We have the Bulls versus the Bulldogs, so that should be okay. Conquistadors versus Aviators, Pioneers versus Huskies. Then we have the Riverhogs versus Sentinels, and that's it for the preseason right there. So it looks like we should have some pretty good games on the AFC side for the preseason. And so
Definitely
what we're going to do,
interesting matchups.
Yeah, which game did you see so far that you were most interested in? That just off the top of your head from going.
Well, besides the Armadillos games, I would say probably the Bulldogs and the Red Dragons.
Yeah, I like that game. I really want to watch it just because they both were the previous champion from before. That's the main reason why. Red Dragons, man, if you haven't seen from the Twitter post that I had a while ago displaying the teams and the divisions and their overalls, Red Dragons has the highest overall heading into season 3 with a 91 team overall. So that's going to be a tough team to beat again. So that should be a team definitely that a lot of guys, are going to be watching out for, especially if you're an opposing team with the coaches. So without further ado, that's the preseason. Of course, like I said, if I'm going through it fast, don't worry about it. I'll definitely be sure to post it on the website for you guys to watch, for you guys to see right after, which I'll try to target for tomorrow. So here we go with week 1 of the AFC of the of season 3 schedule. So the first game we have the Aviators and the Voyagers. So this will be Coach James Skaggs facing off against Coach Donnell Brown. So this should be a very interesting game. Great way to start off the week. And I know Coach Brown's got to be excited to know that he's going to be going up against, somebody he's a little bit acquainted with and testing out, to see if he can get his first victory over a well-qualified team here with the Aviators, who I've said already has been in the playoffs for 2 consecutive years. So this has been a team to beat. After that, we got the Huskies and the Cougars. This is a divisional game off the rip in week 1. Once again, 2 coaches. We got Coach Chiz and we have Coach Alex Dar, who will be facing off each other in week 1. So week 1 is going to be a lot of coaches against coaches. So that should be very interesting to see whose game plan is really, was really thought out well and whose is better. After that, we got the Bisons and the Sentinels. And then we have the Armadillos and Bulldogs. Divisional game right here with the San Antonio Dreadnoughts and the Pioneers. And that is it for week 1 for the AFC. Going on to week 2, we have the Armadillos versus the Voyagers. And after that, this is probably going to be a really big game. We already know when these 2 teams face each other, this is just a game to watch. These teams were the first teams actually in the RFL championship game. It was the Bulldogs versus the Celtic Tigers, if you guys can remember in season 1, where the Bulldogs ended up walking away with a blowout victory, surprisingly, over the Celtic Tigers, beating them 34 to 12, which was a shocker to many. And now they end up from the expansion being in the same division, ironically. And these guys, just a season ago, they faced each other twice from being in the same division. And the Bulldogs beat the Celtic Tigers once, and the Celtic Tigers beat them once. So, I mean, this is a really good rivalry. Make sure that you come through for this game, and I can't wait to see that one. That's always an interesting one. Moving on, we got another divisional game here. We got the Orlando Sentinels taking on the Chicago Cougars. So that'll be another battle of the coaches right there. So that should be really interesting to watch. And we got the Bulls versus the Riverhogs. Then we have the Huskies versus the Dreadnoughts. And the Red Dragons versus the Aviators. I believe this happened in the playoffs. I can't remember, but this should definitely be a good game. And to finish out week 2, it'll be the Conquistadors versus the Black Knights. Week 3, I might as well go from the bottom up so I won't have to keep going all the way up. So we got Cougars and Bisons. Somebody just sent me an invite. Remind that. See what else. Dreadnoughts, Sentinels, Celtic Tigers, and Conquistadors. This should be a good one. These two divisional rivals right here as well. Got the Red Dragons and the Bulls. So Coach Campbell definitely got your work cut out for you as you'll be taking on the San Diego Red Dragons, last year's champs. So this should definitely be a testament here to see, what type of impact you bring as head coach to the Bulls to try to change that franchise around. Then you got the Riverhogs versus the Voyagers, Bulldogs versus Aviators, and the Black Knights versus the Armadillos. And on the week 4, see what we got here. We have the Bisons versus the Pioneers, another divisional game here. Should be interesting to watch. Then the Bulls versus the Sentinels. Red Dragons and Huskies. Now, this probably is the #1 game to watch right here. I would put this over. This is probably the best rivalry, I'll have to say, in RFL football, is the Red Dragons versus the Huskies. If you guys remember, the only team that the Red Dragons lost to last season were the Huskies, and they were in the
That's going to be good.
So that is going to be amazing. Their first matchup will be in week 4 with the Red Dragons traveling to Toronto to take on the Huskies. So, Coach Chiz, there you go. This one's going to be the big one right here, week 4. Hope you're going to be ready for that one, because that one should be a straight-up battle right there. And interesting.
I'm taking Toronto to sweep them this year.
You got Toronto sweeping the Red Dragons this season?
I think that Toronto's the adjustments and the off-season additions that they've added to their defense is going to be the difference.
I definitely do feel they had definitely a good draft. The Red Dragons, I mean, they didn't really need too many players, but I think they filled in a couple good spots. They picked up, I believe, Darion, can't remember his own. Dariantre Machiavelli. Yeah, that was a long name, but surprisingly, I remember it, and he'll actually be starting. That was a submitted draft player, and he's actually pretty good. They got him starting at the slot, so now they're receiving weapons. I'm going to say this straight off the rip. The Red Dragons receiving weapons were already crazy with the 2 twin towers on the outside, and now they got a speedster who also has height at 6'4", who is going to I don't see how people are going to be able to stop this aerial attack. So that's crazy. I'm like, I don't see the Huskies sweeping the Red Dragons, but I think it might be the same scenario as last season where, each team will get 1 win apiece. But that's got to probably be the biggest game of the regular season. These two.
Definitely can't wait for that one.
Definitely going to be a good one. And here goes a divisional matchup. The Black Knights versus the Celtic Tigers. Should be, of course, we already know the divisional games are always fun to watch. Of course, the Celtic Tigers usually dominate, but we'll see, if the Black Knights can turn themselves around. Moving on to week 5, big divisional matchup here with the Bulls versus the Dreadnoughts. That's always a good game to watch. And there's a lot of divisional games I'm starting to see here. Black Knights versus Bulldogs. And we have another divisional game. Week 5 looks like it's just going to be division games all the way through, as we have the Chicago Cougars and the Orlando Sentinels. Then we have the Riverhogs versus the Aviators divisional game. This one should really be good. I'm interested to see how the Red Dragons respond back the Riverhogs respond back, because if you guys remember from last season, the Riverhogs actually should have won the division, and then they lost. I believe it was 4 games straight. They lost 4 games straight when they were on top of the division, which the Aviators took advantage of. They won their games and ended up sliding into the playoffs and knocking out the Riverhawks. So that was a good game to watch. That was a crazy turn of events. So this should be a really good game to watch. I think it's going to be between these two again on who might win that division there in the West. Moving on to the rest of the games, we got the Conquistadors and the Pioneers. And then look at this. This a rematch of the AFC Championship game a season ago. The Red Dragons versus the Celtic Tigers. Another big game. It's going to be a lot of big games this season, man. I'm really liking the way this schedule is looking. Like I said, if you guys are seeing that I'm going probably fast, you think I'm going too fast with the schedule, don't worry about it for guys who are just coming in. It's going to be posted on the website. Trying to aim to get it all done tomorrow. So just trying to make sure I get through this process because, again, you got to get through the NFC side too. So, let's try to get through this. Week 6. Looks like it won't be that many AFC games. We got the Armadillos versus the Celtic Tigers. Then we got the Bulls versus the Bisons, divisional game there. Huskies versus Sentinels. That's always a good game to watch there. Another divisional rivalry between those two. The Voyagers versus Aviators. So the second time that Coach Brown will be meeting with Coach Skaggs, and it's all within 6 weeks. So that should be interesting to see who gets the best out of those 2 games. And the last game is the Black Knights versus the Riverhawks. Moving on to week 7, another divisional matchup here. Black Knights, Conquistadors. Then it's the Armadillos versus the Huskies.
Let's go.
That should be a good game. Of course, Mike's hyped up because starting cornerback over there for the Armadillos, we'll see, what kind of impact he'll have. Definitely going to have his work cut out against him, though, with that Huskies receiving core. But, hey, any game, anything can happen. So interested to see how that one will go. Moving on, we got a divisional matchup between the Pioneers and the Bulls. Then the Dreadnoughts and Bisons. This is another rivalry that is nice to watch. I love watching these two because if you look back at the last 2 seasons, season 1, the Oklahoma City Bisons barely won out the division to advance to the playoffs, knocking out the Dreadnoughts and advancing and getting into the playoffs. And then this season that just passed, San Antonio Dreadnoughts does the same thing, just beating them by a couple of wins, and they end up winning the division. So these 2 teams definitely going to be a good game to watch there. Then we got the Red Dragons versus the Sentinels, so that should be a really good one. Another divisional matchup right there. And Celtic Tigers versus Voyagers. So Coach Brown, definitely going to be another game cut out for you. Celtic Tigers have recorded 2 back-to-back 13-3 seasons, so this has just been a program that knows how to win, and neither years have they had a coach. So I'm really interested to see if they can probably – they got to the championship game, and then they lost it in the season 1. Then they got to the AFC championship game and ended up losing against the Red Dragons, who ultimately ended up winning it all. I feel that, the Celtic Tigers are pretty close. They could probably, run the table, but who knows? A lot of changes, a lot of different things for teams this year. But Armadillos versus the Aviators. So this should be a really good game. I believe they're in the same division. I think I just had a brain. I can't remember which team was in what division. If the Armadillos in the same division, as the Aviators. But I think they are. Then we have the Cougars versus the Pioneers. What else? Okay, look at that. And there we go. The second matchup between the Huskies and the Red Dragons. It's going to be week 4 and then week 8. So 4 weeks apart. And that time, the Huskies are going to be going into the Dragons' den. So this one's going to be both games are just going to be phenomenal to watch at the end of the day. I can't wait to see it. Then we have the Conquistadors traveling to Dublin to take on the Celtic Tigers. Another good divisional matchup right there. So halfway done the AFC schedule. Then we got to go to the other franchise, to the AFC, to the NFC. We're at the AFC right now. We got the Voyagers versus the Sentinels. And the Cougars rematch against the Huskies. So 2 teams, division rivals meeting up twice right there. The Bulls versus Black Knights, Pioneers versus Armadillos, Conquistadors versus Riverhogs, Bisons versus Red Dragons, Dreadnoughts versus Aviators. I like this game. I think that one will be interesting. And moving on to Week 10. Week 10, we have the Aviators versus the Black Knights, the Sentinels versus Bulldogs. There's another good divisional matchup here with the Dreadnoughts taking on the Bulls, Cougars taking on the Red Dragons for the second time, and that's it for Week 10. So we're moving here. Bisons and Dreadnoughts rematch again. Like I said, this should be a really good game to watch for both times that these two teams meet. Then we have the Armadillos and Riverhogs. I believe they are in the same division.
Yeah, that's division.
Yeah, so they are in the same division as the Aviators. So Armadillos, I'm interested to see how the Armadillos actually improve, though. I feel like they had good weapons, a good team, but for some reason they just can't find ways to, win the games that are important. But then we have the Cougars traveling to London to take on the Black Knights. Divisional matchup here between the Bulls and the Pioneers. I believe that'll be their second meeting of season 3. Then we have a big game right here: Celtic Tigers versus Aviators.
That'll be a good one.
That one will be a really good game. Then the Sentinels versus Red Dragons for another divisional matchup there in the AFC South. And then the London Bulldogs taking on the Houston Voyagers right there to finish out Week 11. Week 12, got the Cougars versus the Bulls here. Said it backwards, but the Bulls will be actually traveling to Chicago to take on the Cougars. That one should be okay to watch right there. Aviators versus Armadillos again. So, yep, definitely in the same division as confirmed. Huskies versus Conquistadors. Pioneers versus Dreadnoughts. Bisons versus Voyagers. Riverhogs versus Bulldogs. And we'll move on to Week 13. So, Week 13. Appreciate the sub, Rosie Rosa. I'm not sure if I said your name right, but appreciate that. Hope to see you in future streams. Of course, there's going to be a lot of action to come as season 3 is approaching, and I can't wait. Should be kicking off and be a good game between the Voyagers and the Huskies on Monday. Then here in Week 13, we got the Bulldogs versus the Bisons, Black Knights versus Celtic Tigers, Aviators versus Red Dragons, Conquistadors versus Armadillos, and the Cougars versus Red Dragons. And I think that game's pretty good as well. I like when these two met up. Of course, Alex Dar's got to put together a good game plan to try to knock off the Red Dragons. And then you got the Aviators in Week 14 traveling to Conquistadors. Let's see what else we got next. Riverhogs versus the Cougars. Sentinels and Huskies, always a good game. I think I said before in their first meeting. And then we get the rematch finally. So this is a long gap between these two to face off against each other again with the Celtic Tigers and the Bulldogs. This one should be a good one to watch. Armadillos versus Voyagers, and then the Pioneers versus Bisons, another divisional game right there. In Week 15, we got the Conquistadors versus the Bulldogs. Then we have the Cougars versus Dreadnoughts. Voyagers versus Riverhogs. Of course, if you're coaches, you want to see the schedule and things like that. You can always go back if you can't wait for tomorrow. Just watch as I go through the week. Wait till I call your team. But then we got the Orlando Sentinels traveling to the Salt Lake City to take on the Pioneers, and the Huskies versus the Bisons to finish out Week 15. So 2 more weeks left for the AFC. We got the Pioneers and Huskies going at it. Bulldogs and Black Knights, I believe. I don't know if that's a divisional game. I'm not sure. I think it might be. But then we got the Dreadnoughts versus the Red Dragons. I want to see how my Dreadnoughts do against the Red Dragons. That should be a really good game. I hope we put up a good fight. I hope we win. Shoot. If not put up a good fight, I want more than that. But the Riverhogs versus the Celtic Tigers should be a good one. And we got the Voyagers versus Conquistadors. And to close out, we have the Bisons versus Bulls. And the final week, here we have the Bulldogs Conquistadors meeting up for the second time. Bulls versus Huskies. Armadillos versus Riverhogs, Voyagers versus Black Knights, Celtic Tigers and Dreadnoughts, excuse me. And then to close out Week 17, the Red Dragons versus the Pioneers. So that's it for the AFC schedule. And then, of course, we head into the playoffs after that, which should be sometime in August. Which, I plan to go on my schedule so that way we can actually, I won't have any problems like I did last season, getting back to you guys and showing you guys, and making sure that I'm on schedule and not missing any weeks of games. So I'm glad that I'm starting this on time this time, and it's not going to interfere with my school. So that should be good. And here we are finally for the AFC. We're going to go through this schedule. So a couple guys are for the NFC. A couple guys are in the NFC side. We'll get to see their schedule here. Rosa said, Red Dragons will tear apart the Dreadnought. I hope not. I hope it isn't that deadly. Okay. So here goes the preseason for the NFC. So let me see. Okay, first game, which should be a big one. Me and Mike was just talking about how big this game should be just for a preseason game with the Brooklyn Barons traveling to Toronto to take on the Thunderbirds. I think this would be the best game to watch in the preseason for week one. After that, we got the Explorers versus the Diablos, which should also be a good one, and the Crusaders versus the Steamers. There's 5 more teams still that I have to transfer over to Madden 18. Steamers is one of them, so I got to make sure I get that done and out the way before, game time arrives. So week 2 of the preseason for the NFC, we got the Gunners traveling to Oklahoma City to take on the Lancers. So that should be a good one. Then we got the Snowhawks versus the Barons. What else? We got Condors versus Elks. I think that'll be okay. Thunderbirds versus Desperados. And the Tigers versus Crusaders. Week 3 of the preseason, we have Monarchs getting their first action there in the preseason against the Elks. I know Jay is on the Monarchs team. He's waiting to see where he'll be able to play. And there you are. Your first game will be against the Elks. It'll be an interesting one. See what else we have here. Barons versus Explorers. I believe this is a divisional game. Let's see what else. What's good, Coach Kozer? Appreciate you coming through the live stream there. Head coach of the Thunderbirds right there. Was just talking about that Barons and Thunderbirds game that's coming up for week 1 of the preseason. That should be interesting to watch. And speaking of the Thunderbirds, week 3, we got the Shamrocks versus the Thunderbirds. So that should be actually, if you look back at the last season, this was the game that helped get the Thunderbirds in the playoffs in the first place. They ended up beating the Shamrocks and got their way in and ended up going all the way to the NFC Championship game, where they unfortunately got knocked off by the Diablos. But next on the list we have for week 3, the Crusaders versus the Condors. And that'll be it for week 3. And to finish out the preseason for the NFC, we'll have the Lancers versus Condors, Thunderbirds and Monarchs. So that should be an interesting one to watch. Desperados and Crusaders, another good one, and the Elks and Snowhawks. So now moving on to the regular season of the RFL for the NFC. We'll see. Oh, look at this. This would have been a big game. Unfortunately, man, I wish that coach wasn't having any problems and had to withdraw from the Condors as coach, because that would have been a good game watching the Condors versus Thunderbirds. I know guys.
That would have been a great one.
Definitely. Guys.
Still is going to be a good one. But
yeah, it's going to be a good one regardless. This is LC3 versus Chase McCoy, 2 of the most explosive rookie quarterbacks just a season ago going up against each other in this game. Both scrambling quarterbacks. I mean, that can actually get it done throwing and running. So this probably might be matchup of the week for week 1 right here in the NFC. Moving on, though, we got the Monarchs versus the Elks, Diablos versus Shamrocks. I want to see what the Shamrocks are going to do this season. I mean, they were terrible last season. They were the number 2 pick this season.
You need a quarterback.
Yeah, they definitely need a quarterback. That's why they were trying to acquire Trey Mason when he was probably the biggest free agent signee so far in the offseason. And they tried their best, just couldn't get him. He ends up going to the Lancers. So I'm interested to see what the Lancers would do too as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too. Well, obviously, hopefully, we can see them take advantage of free agency while it's open.
Yeah, and that's one thing for season 4. I'm gonna let you guys know right now. Season 4, when it comes to free agency, me and Mike was talking things like that. I figured out a way where we could get the GoDaddy League going because Mike brought it up to me.
Go Daddy, Daddy Leagues.
Oh, it's Daddy League. Oh, snap! My bad, yeah. Well, the Daddy League, where you guys will have full access to the stats, the rosters, news, all of that. Everything that I have on my game, you guys will be able to have access to. So that will be
on your phones.
Yeah, and on your phone. Even the coaches, it's going to be a lot that you guys are going to be able to have. What you say they'll be able to have again?
You'll have access to the depth chart. You'll have access to free agents. You'll have access to everything. So you'll be able to physically scroll through and look at all of the current available free agents. And you can also look at, like I said, you can look at your depth chart. You can look at your roster. You can literally make every move that you need to, just off your phone.
Straight off your phone. So I know coaches, y'all gonna be ready. I'm gonna need y'all though as well. Because I'm gonna need people to set up the league. But that's something in the future. We'll talk about it later. But moving on, still to finish out a week 1 schedule, Crusaders versus the Explorers. Believe that's a division. No, I don't think that's a division. Then we got the Marshals versus the Lancers. Now this is a really good game. I think that's going to be fun to watch. See Trey Mason taking on. It looks like Travis Frazier Jr. has a better overall rating than Ryan Branker, the former starter for the Marshals. So it looks like the rookie's going to be able to just walk right in and be able to start. But, of course, he's only one attribute point, or one overall point over Branker. So it's going to be a battle this preseason. That's why I'm glad I'm bringing a preseason for the first time here in the RFL. But that should be a really good game. Then we have the Gunners versus the Desperados to finish out week 1. And going on to week 2 of the RFL, we got the Crusaders taking on the Gunners. That should be a good game. Explorers versus Lancers, another good game right here. Tigers and Snowhawks, Desperados and Condors, Monarchs and Thunderbirds. I think these games are always really good to watch between these two. I think they're in the same division as well. Then the Marshals and Diablos, another good game to watch. And that'll finish out week 2 for the RFL. Then moving on to week 3, we have Gunners and Snowhawks, Crusaders and Steamers, Thunderbirds and Shamrocks will meet for this. No, I think it was the preseason that they met. So this will be their first time during the regular season that they'll meet up. So they'll play each other 3 times during this season. That's crazy. Then you got the Desperados versus the Monarchs and the Barons versus the Marshals. Should be a good game. Hey, did we post this link in the
I already posted it. I posted it when it first came out.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, of course.
Week 4, we have the Desperados versus the Tigers, Diablos and Barons. That should be a really good one. Lancers and Monarchs. That one should be good. I want to ask this question though, going back to this Barons and Diablos game though, Mike. Do you think? Well, actually, just focusing on the Diablo. Do you think that the Diablos are actually going to be, since they made it to the playoffs and to the championship game? Do you think they're going to be that good of a team again for a second season back to back with the low overall players that they had, or was it just a miracle?
They have a lot of good players, but the problem is they don't have depth. So I feel like as long as they can stay healthy, I feel like they could definitely get back there. I don't think that they're going to have the miracle season that they had last year, but I think that they would definitely be. I think that they're going to go over 500 this year, though, for sure.
Okay, yeah, that's a good.
I think they're a good team. I just don't think they're a great team.
I feel the same way. I feel like they got lucky on a lot of things. Mainly, I think Kerrigan carried them for real.
I'm interested to see how he plays this season because that's going to be a big factor. Because if he runs the way he did in the playoffs, then yes, they will get back to where they were.
Yeah, that for sure. Moving on to week 4, we got the Lancers versus the Monarchs. We got the Marshals and Condors. That should be a really good game. Gunners and Crusaders again. That's a nice one. Elks and Snowhawks. And now finish out week 4. Moving on to week 5, we got the Explorers and Snowhawks. This one should be a really good game. These are two teams that are not in the same division, but these guys were the number 1 and the number 2 seed in the NFC a season ago. Crazy, though, both teams got eliminated the first round in the playoffs, which I was not expecting. I thought that, at least one of them would win, but some didn't really put up a fight like I thought they would. They got eliminated. I guess the week off hurt them a little bit, and I'm pretty sure they're anxious to get back. But these two going to be going at it in week 5. That should be a good game to watch. Got the Crusaders versus the Condors, Elks versus Barons. See what else we got? Steamers versus Desperados. Let's not sleep on the Steamers either. If guys can also remember back to last season, the Steamers looked like they were going to be a negative team, and in their last 4 games of the season, they just won out against big teams that we just flat out doubted that the Steamers were going to win.
I do remember that. And you know what? They also picked up that nose tackle. Was it Max Moore?
Yeah, Max Moore. He's
a big dude. He's a big dude, and I'm just really interested to see how he helps out their defense.
I think he's going to help out that defense a lot because, they really struggle with
getting to the passer.
Yeah, with a lot of areas. But let's see if they can carry that momentum from last season on to, this season and come up with another good season to end out on a good note. But the Desperados and Steamers match there. We got the Lancers and the Marshals facing off for the second time again. That should be a good one. And then the Shamrocks and the Diablos. Moving on to week 6, we got the Steamers and the Marshals going at it. Then we got the Monarchs and Shamrocks. I think that's a divisional game as well. Crusaders and Tigers. I think that's their second meeting. Snowhawks, Desperados. Elks and Gunners. And Barons and Thunderbirds will meet again. So they're going to meet again.
That's going to be good. That is going to be good. I love the fact that they play in the preseason and then they play in week 6 after they have their starters.
Exactly. I think that will definitely be. Are they in the same division? No, they're not. So that's so even though they're not in the same division, they're going to get 2 games pretty much against each other. So that definitely should be a good one to watch right there. Moving on to week 7. Let's see what else we got here. Snowhawks and Crusaders. Then we got the Gunners and Steamers. This was one of the games that was big and crucial on why the Gunners didn't make the playoffs was when the Steamers were on their hot run. They ended up knocking off the Gunners, and they ended up eliminating them. So this should be a good game to watch. They'll have a rematch in season 3. Then we got the Diablos versus Monarchs, Lancers versus Barons. And I think that's it. Oh, Explorers versus Thunderbirds. That should be a really good one right there. I don't know if guys remember, but you already know. C.J. Robinson is definitely somebody to watch out for in the receiving end for the Explorers. Looking to see how he'll do in his sophomore season. Hopefully he won't have a sophomore slump. And then we got the Thunderbirds, of course, with their high-flying offense and their good rookie draft class that they've had since being in the league. So we'll see with that game. That one should be a good one. And we got the Condors versus the Steamers in week 8. Explorers and Shamrocks. It seems like every time the Shamrocks come up, it's like I'm already doubting the Shamrocks to win. I don't know why. But they just, I don't know. They just look like one of those teams that just doesn't,
You don't know, though. You never know. Anything can happen. I mean,
yeah. But that's just how I feel. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, yeah, they weren't the best team, but we'll see how it goes. I mean, maybe they find, some little bit of success and just run with it. I mean, that's what's cool about this is you just don't know. And we could go. I mean, I know the odds are obviously that Red Dragons are going to be incredible, but they could have lose the first 5 games in a row. It's crazy about this. You just don't know. But I think that definitely the Shamrocks need a lot of work. Like we talked about, a quarterback for sure.
I think if they get a quarterback, they'll be all right. I'm not even gonna lie. If they just get
that's the biggest piece. I mean, that's the biggest piece of the puzzle.
And their receivers aren't good now that I think about it either. I don't think any receivers. Yeah, they definitely need some work more than just a quarterback.
They need a coach.
They need that, definitely. Somebody who's definitely going to build this team from the inside out come next draft time.
Yeah, that would be fun to see.
Yeah, I want to see who takes on that responsibility. That's going to be a lot. That's really coming from the ground up. In the final game from Week 8, we have the Marshalls versus the Barons, and then we'll move on to Week
And
9.
we were just talking about the Marshalls too today. You said that they had the best draft out of anybody.
Oh yeah, that's something we definitely got to bring up there. Marshalls, and the crazy thing, head coach of the Marshalls, Joe Flores, he came to the league just in time. Like I believe it was a day before we were about to do the draft. So he didn't know anybody in the draft. He just picked these guys at random, and they ended up being nothing but 70 and 80 overall players. Like he did not draft a single 60 or below overall player. Like all his players, I believe about 3 or 4 of them are actually like over 80, or 80 or higher.
That's crazy.
And I think that like probably 4, maybe 5 of them are going to be starting too. So that was just a crazy luck of the draw right there by Coach Flores. What did you guys say?
Also, just got news that Zach Rosen is competing for the starting quarterback job at the Houston Voyagers.
Oh, sure about that. I mean, the Voyagers.
Glenn Hay.
Yeah, Glenn Hayes definitely not going to get that up. I mean, I'm not saying that you could compete.
Yeah,
Just nice.
Something to watch. Just something to watch.
That's going to be a good game to watch. Good competition to watch. But then also they drafted a quarterback as well, Hugo Zachary. So Hugo Zachary's actually. Hold on, I gotta go back and check this because I think that it was Glenn Hay and Hugo Zachary on the Voyagers. I didn't see Zach Rosen. So I might have messed something up there. Did they trade? I don't think they trade. I don't think the trade went through, was it? I can't remember.
We'll have to look. Yeah,
we'll have to look that up later. But Week 9, we got the Thunderbirds versus the Steamers. Should be a pretty good game. He said, Coach Coder talking about look out for Bain. Yeah, we're definitely going to talk about him in a minute after we're done the schedule. Got Barons versus the Desperados. Shamrocks versus Marshalls, Elks versus Crusaders. Then we got the Condors and Tigers. Tigers are one of the teams now that I'm watching them that I want to really step up as well. I mean, they were a team that had, I think they just had average players. They just need to build their team up a little bit more. I think they could be a really good, solid team. Not to mention they got some new fire uniforms they're going to be wearing here in Season 3, that all orange. You'll see it. Really good uniform. And they had a pretty good draft as well. But in the last 2 games for Week 9, we got the Monarchs and the Diablos and the Lancers versus Explorers. Now, this is a game to watch. I believe it was this game a season ago that was the most craziest comeback ever, where like the Lancers were down by like
I remember that. Yeah,
points, and they came back and won. That was crazy. That was a crazy game, man. So that should be a really good matchup. Week 10, we got the Marshalls versus the Monarchs. Lancers versus Diablos, another good game there. Steamers and Snowhawks. And the Shamrocks versus Gunners. Week 11, we have the Monarchs versus Barons. I believe that's the second time they'll face off. I think they're in the same division. Then we got the Diablos and Thunderbirds. So this one should be a really good game to watch between.
That'll be a good one too.
And the Thunderbirds. So that one should be a good one. Crusaders and Elks, Tigers and Condors, Gunners and Lancers. This one really should be a good one as well. Then we'll move on to Week 12. Week 12, we have the Diablos taking on the Explorers. Should be a really good game there. Excuse me. Then we got the Tigers versus the Desperados. Let me move my mic a little bit because I feel like I'm away from Barons and Lancers, another good game. Gunners and Elks, divisional game there. Steamers and Crusaders, another divisional game that should be a good one.
That will be a good one.
Another one, like I said, this was another team. This was another big game that the Steamers won at the end of the season. It didn't knock off the Crusaders because they did end up making the playoffs regardless because they won the division. But, I mean, this was probably the biggest win of the season for the Steamers with knocking off the Crusaders towards the end of the season last year. And then we have the Shamrocks versus the Thunderbirds again. And Condors versus Snowhawks. That one should be a really good one as well. Week 13, Thunderbirds and Marshalls. This is a good one. That's really going to be a good one. I remember making a promo to this, and the game was pretty good. It was epic. Then we got the Snowhawks to the Diablos. What else we got here? Desperados and Crusaders. That should be good. Elks and Steamers. Explorers and Barons. Really good game. I think that's going to be. Lancers and Tigers. And Shamrocks and Monarchs. Almost done the schedule here. Like I said, for guys who are just joining, I just want to make sure I keep saying it every time so that way nobody knows. If it seems like I'm just going through the weeks fast, don't worry about it. I'll be sure to post it up on the website as soon as possible, aiming for tomorrow. See what else we got here. For week 14, we got the Elks and Condors, then the Thunderbirds and Lancers, which should be a really good one. Tigers and Shamrocks, Monarchs and Explorers, Desperados and the Snowhawks, and then the Diablos versus the Crusaders, which should be a good one to watch as well. Tigers and Steamers start to end out week 15, excuse me. Moving on, we got the Explorers and Marshalls, another good game. I think that's a divisional game as well. Desperados and Elks, Snowhawks and Condors. We got the Thunderbirds and Monarchs, another good game to watch there. I think they're in the same division. A divisional game there. Barons and the Shamrocks, week 15. Week 16, we got the Barons and Explorers, another big game. So that one should really be interesting to watch, especially in crunch time, week 16. When towards the end of the season, when you have those big games, that's really going to be fun to watch. Then you got the Thunderbirds versus the Diablos again, so that one should be good. Snowhawks and Tigers. Condors and Gunners, Steamers and Elks, and the Shamrocks and Lancers. And to finish out the schedule finally here for for season 3 of the RFL for the NFC side, we have it where, man, last week we got the Marshalls and Explorers playing each other. That one should be really good to end out the regular season between those two squads. Then we got the Steamers and Gunners, a rematch right here between these two teams, the division rivals. See if the Gunners can get their payback from last season, losing towards the end, which cost them a playoff spot. Then we have the Elks and Tigers, and the Condors and Desperados, and that is it for the regular season schedule. So that should be very interesting to see how teams are going to do this season. We'll probably do a podcast later on, thinking what teams are going to go through the record and things like that, through their schedule and stuff like that, which should be much faster just going down the list. But yeah, we'll do that. So there's the schedule for the RFL, and now it's time to move on to our next topic, which what up. Doing something right now. I don't know if my phone just started a while now. Okay, yeah. Moving on to our next topic is our week 1 preseason predictions. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about what we think the games are going to be, who's going to win by each game, and also talk about the key players. Well, I'll give it to Mike to actually talk about who the key players are to watch out for, the matchups and things like that. I'll just give my prediction for the game as well as his and things like that, but I'll leave it up to Mike there to do the talking for that. But let's go back to the schedule here with week 1. Let's see. Starting out, we got the for the NFC. We might as well stay here. And where are they at? Okay, Barons and Thunderbirds. So let's just start it off hot right here.
Oh, man.
So my prediction as far as the preseason on who I think will win, I mean, I think the Thunderbirds might get the job done there because I just don't feel that the Barons have enough, backup guys or who are going to be good enough to finish out the game. But that's just my little input there. So go ahead and talk about who to watch out for and your prediction.
Where to start? Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and give my prediction. It's a little bit of a bold prediction. I'm going to take the Barons in this.
Okay.
And the reason I'm going to take the Barons is because of their recent draft pick, the one that everybody talks about. It's Amari Manuel,
Oh yeah,
the
Manuel is the truth.
the number one wide receiver prospect out of the draft, definitely. The reason why I'm taking the Barons is because this guy can catch anything that comes his way. He's extremely fast. He can beat any corner you put in front of him. Plus, he's going up against Fells, which is the corner, the CB1 for the Thunderbirds, and he's only, I mean, he's a low 70s corner. He's not nothing crazy. He did play good last year and last season, but I think he's gonna have he's gonna have his hands full because Amari Emanuel's just too. I'm excited to see what he does. I guess we can't really say anything until we see him on the field, but I really, really think that this guy could be a big difference maker for the Barons, and I'm going to take them. But that being said, there are some good key matchups. The first one, obviously, everybody wants to talk about is Bane fighting for potential starter over LC3.
Which I know that some guys in the who are here who know about the RFL will feel some type of way about that. So Coach Kozra, he's going to keep an open competition here between who's going to start and lead the offense of the Thunderbirds. But I'm saying LC3, man, anytime you come straight in out the draft and you're about to compete with LC3 to possibly be able to, beat him up for a spot, you got to be a really good quarterback. And so that should be very interesting to watch and see how he does during the preseason. Possibility, though, in my opinion, I wouldn't necessarily start him. I'd have him as a backup. Overall wise, of course, overall doesn't matter, but he is
Right.
5 overall points underneath him, which, like I said, doesn't matter. But LC3 already built, a foundation there. I feel he already,
Of course.
guys
I,
are already.
I agree with that.
Exactly.
I definitely agree with that. I think that LC3 has kind of. I mean, look what he did for the team last year. He played great last year.
30 touchdown passes.
That's awesome. Yeah, but I'm not opposed to the fact of bringing somebody in. I think that's super. I love the fact that they're bringing somebody in to kind of just set a fire under LC3. You know what I mean?
I definitely agree with that, though, too. And not to mention the submitted draft player. So whoever submitted him, I know you got to be hyped that you got an opportunity to actually beat out LC3 and take over for the Thunderbirds. But either way, how it goes, they got 2 solid quarterbacks. But in my opinion, how I think this might roll out is if the Thunderbirds do somehow end up going with Bane over LC3, LC3 is not going to want to stay there. He's not going to want to be a backup after the season he just had. That's just how I feel like things will turn out there in Toronto if it does go that way. But, we're just going to have to see. But
yes, definitely.
To the next game to talk about, we have the Explorers and the Diablos. So my prediction as far as this game, who I believe might win this, I got the Explorers. Explorers just ended up obtaining wide receiver Matthew Milo, who's willing to try to get traded from the Condors. He has an opportunity to compete this preseason for the starting slot position. So that should actually be pretty good to talk. Oh, snap. I just looked at you. My bad, bro. I just seen that you had the notes on that. But that just came off the top. But, yeah.
No, that's okay. No, yeah. Honestly, he's going to have a lot of playing time in the 3rd and 4th quarter. It's going to be really exciting to kind of see what he can do. I think that he definitely. I mean, he's got an opportunity. He's got a really good opportunity.
Most definitely. As far as just finishing out what my prediction was, I just think that the Explorers are going to win. Like I said, like you said about the Diablos, about them, they're being a good team, but they're not great. They just don't have guys to back up, the starters. So that's why I don't feel like their backup's going to be able to finish the game and get the job done. But
Yeah, you can see on the notes I've got on there too. The Explorers don't have a clear-cut starting right end.
mhm.
They don't have, I mean, if you look at their defensive ends, one of them is literally like a 60 something overall, which given overall doesn't matter. But whenever you're going against Miles Kerrigan, that's a big thing. So that could be something to watch too. It's how that guy performs and if he holds his own, because like I said, like we talked about earlier, if Miles Kerrigan runs like he ran last season, then it's going to be an issue.
Yeah, and one thing I want to say is like week one of the RFL, for guys who know how Madden works, the starters are only going to be in for one quarter, so they'll start like the first week. They'll only play one quarter, so these backups going to get a lot of opportunities to try to win a spot here. So I really feel like this is a big start for guys just coming into the league to try to see if they can land a spot, and guys who've been competing to try to move up the depth chart since season one. But anything else you want to say about the game or who you predict going to win here?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, honestly, I would say that's about it. Besides, obviously Matthew Milo is the big story on that one.
Okay. Well, moving on, we're not going to cover the Crusaders and Steamers game because like I said earlier in the stream, I did not transfer over the Memphis Steamers yet. The Crusaders are transferred over, but of course, until I could get a definite of the rosters and everything from Madden 17 over to Madden 18 to see how these teams would compare, then I think it would be better to give a prediction then. But we're just going to move on now to the AFC and then call it a stream, which I feel we did a pretty good job of. I think this one was much smoother than the last one that we had.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'll be right back, Smitty.
Okay. So let me go ahead and read a couple comments though, until Mike gets back. So I think my picks are better. Yeah, you had some good picks, Coach Brown. Says Sherman with Niners big. Sherman got picked up by the Niners. Said don't start Kyle Bean. I'm blessed to try to compete. Yeah, it was definitely a good trade-off. But let's go ahead and I'm gonna go through and just give my predictions on the rest of the AFC games, and then when he gets back, he could go ahead and talk about the key players to watch out for and things like that. So then on the list we have the Sentinels and the Bisons. So the Sentinels and Bisons should be a really good game. Head coach of the Sentinels, I believe that's Coach Tor Armstrong, will be having his first matchup here against the Bisons. Should be a good game. The way I feel that this is going to turn out, Bisons do have some good receivers. So, I mean, their receivers, I think, are going to get, the job done. The running backs, not so much. I think this is just a really evenly balanced game between these two. But I'm going to go with, out of the preseason, with the Sentinels, winning this one. So I think that one should be good. I'm going to just go through the rest once until Mike gets back. And then we got the Cougars versus the Conquistadors. I feel the Cougars, they had an actually solid draft. For guys, who were about to come at Coach Dar's neck, where he was, first 2 draft picks. He ends up drafting 2 quarterbacks. I mean, that was just, everybody was like, why are you making this pick when you have 2 quarterbacks already there who are solid and competing for a starting job? But he ended up trading away one of them, and he kept his second one, Brett Lawler. So Brett Lawler, the way it's going to work is this first game, I don't think week 1 Brett Lawler will be able to play. We got to see about that. Week 1, I don't believe he will. But week 2, he should have an opportunity because since he's third on the depth chart, you know how Madden works. It only brings up the second string quarterback. So once week 1's done, week 2, I'll put in Brett Lawler to get his opportunity. And then he'll finish out the rest of the season. But who I think is going to win this one, I got the Cougars. I think the Cougars get the win on the road. And then to finish out with my predictions, of the game that we'll be seeing in just a couple days, the Huskies versus the Voyagers. I got the Huskies, man. The Huskies are a really good game, a really good team. Voyagers, they look like they got turned themselves into a really good team after this draft. We're the worst team in the RFL a season ago, but this time I really feel that they'll have themselves a winning season. I don't think they've had a winning season since being a part of the RFL. But yeah, I know Ethan feels some type of way about that. But the Huskies, I mean, I just feel that they're just deep with their starters and their backups. So I really feel that they're going to get the job done in the preseason. Um, Mike, you back yet? No, he isn't back yet. So what I'll do is just
Okay, I'm here.
Okay, he's here. So I just went through my predictions of the rest of the teams left.
Sure.
So I'll just go back over the last 3 games, and then you just talk about the key players to watch out for. So let's just go actually in the order of the AFC game that we'll have it. Huskies versus Voyagers. Talk to me about that game right there. What you think?
I'm gonna take Huskies.
Same.
I'm gonna take Huskies, and the reason I say Huskies is, like I said, that they added so much on the defensive side with the linebacker, Duke Pascal, and Param Crow, the safety. They're both starters. They both were picked up in the draft, and if they play like what they're if they play how they're expected to play, then there's not going to be an issue. I think the Huskies will do it. I think the Voyagers are a good team, but I still think they have a little bit of work to do on certain positions.
Definitely. I see you got on the notes here a matchup between Ethan Long, who's feeling some type of way in the comments already with us going against his Voyagers, but him and his matchup against Tyrese Maxwell.
Yeah, that's going to be a big one. That's Tyrese Maxwell was one of the best receivers, in my opinion, last season. He was really underrated, but he's a really, really good receiver. And with a rookie corner, getting put in front of him, it's going to be tough for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm interested to see how Ethan holds it down.
Me too. I want to see that matchup. If he can handle him a little bit there, that should be fun. He got 1 quarter to do it, so at least he won't get embarrassed too bad if he does. Not if he can't really hold up against him. But the next game we got the Cougars and Conquistadors. Excuse me. So give your thoughts on this
one. Okay. Let's see. Well, the Cougars coaches made it clear that all 3, all the quarterbacks are fighting for the starting job. So it's going to be really interesting to see. Obviously it's up for grabs. The free safety for the Conquistadors, Gibbs, could be a potential need throughout the season, leaving trades on the table or free agency utilization, or picking up a free agent, because the safety, realistically, they struggle in that position. They really, really need help in that. There's actually a lot of teams that are struggling in the safety position.
Yeah, and then for a note to say, like, from transferring over to Madden 17, I noticed that they made the attributes matter more in Madden 18 because there were guys who were like 86 overall safeties, but when I transferred the exact ratings over to Madden 18, they dropped like down to an 81. So safeties are hard to come by, it looks like, in Madden 18.
And it's a really important position too.
Yeah. You got also on the notes talking about Piku McCullough against Thibodeau.
That is going to be a big one. Obviously, he's known for his speed. He's a really fast receiver, and it's just going to be really, really, obviously a good matchup to watch. Or he's placed up against their number 1 corner, or I believe it's maybe their number 2 corner. But it's always fun to watch. See what a rookie can do whenever they get on the field. It's really just people to watch more so than matchups.
Yeah, most definitely. And the Conquistadors definitely, worked on, they picked up Buck Ulbrich from the Voyagers. That was before Coach Donnell Brown got there. And they just really decked out their receiving core. Their receiving core with their former starter, Trayshawn Whitlock, just wasn't clicking. In season 1, Trayshawn Whitlock was balling, but of course, Trayshawn Whitlock, an older receiver in his 30s, and just hasn't been able to play the same last season, and he will not be starting as an outside receiver this season, as they have Piku McCullough there and Buck Ulbrich, both as the outside receivers, and they'll start Trayshawn in the slot, as you can see it. And for the final prediction here, and to close out our topics here in this podcast, you have the Orlando Sentinels and the Oklahoma City Bisons. Talk to me about this one. Yeah, hello?
Sorry, for some reason it keeps going on mute. Sorry about that.
Cool.
Well, there's a new head coach in Orlando. Obviously, you know, another one is going to be Jarvis Wright. That was the Sentinels' first-round pick, who wasn't really as good as people, you know, as good as, you know, obviously they wanted him to be, at least overall-wise and everything. For a first-round pick, I think he had like a 68 overall. So it's going to be interesting to see how he plays. I mean, he'll probably get maybe a quarter in, but you know, it's just, I think he's competing for wide receiver 3. But I'm gonna take the Sentinels. You know, with the new coach, I'm gonna say, you know, maybe he has some sort of game plan. I mean, he seems pretty confident about the game plan that he's running. So I'm gonna take the Sentinels. Obviously, in a preseason matchup, in a regular season matchup, I think I would probably take the Bisons. But you know,
yeah, I agree with you. Actually, every vote every prediction that you made were the exact same that I made while you were away. And DJ Summers, yes, Dre Lawson did get drafted, but I cannot remember what team off the top of my head he went to. Just make sure you go back and check out those draft videos. And you know, you did get drafted though. And that's another thing. You got guys who, you know, who come. Well, I'm not even gonna make the scene. You know, in the Discord, I already talked about it, so I'm not even gonna, you know, lay down the law here on live. Just, you know, if you're part of the Discord, you already know we talked about it. And so, yeah, that's the end of the podcast as far as our topics. And so now we'll just be finishing out with answering a couple questions with whatever you guys have. You said, did the Gunners? Did you do Gunners already? Yeah, we went through. You can always go back and check out this video of Carl. So, you know, you'll see the schedule. I mean, of course, I'm going to post the schedule. I'm trying to post the schedule for all the teams tomorrow. So hopefully I'll get out to you. It was good, Coach Flores. Ricky Flores said, hey, Smitty, do you think any of the players from undrafted class can be key players? Oh, yeah. If you haven't checked out my last video in my stream where I had actually created the leftover players as free agents, join the Discord so you can talk to me to try to see if you can find a spot on a team. That's why the Discord is very important, so you can communicate with me and I can try to find a way to see if I can get you, you know, on a team. For guys who are already drafted, I will bring this up. If you've already been drafted, don't hit me up talking about I want to go to another team. It's just not going to happen. You know, you got drafted. That's where
doesn't work like that.
Yeah, it just doesn't work like that. And me and Mike was talking of what we were going to be doing as far as a rule with that. And that's from now on, the team you get drafted to, you must remain there for a full season before you can request a trade. So that's going to be the law, you know, for the future from now on. We'll be sure to post that out once we make, you know, more laws and more rules and stuff for the league, so that we could keep things realistic and fair for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So so that answers that question. You said, do you think Ronnie Cam will ever start? And to be honest, Carl, you actually are starting for the Gunners. Ronnie Cam is starting for the Gunners. I forgot who they had. They had, I think it was Khaled Grooves was their former starter, and he's a 78 overall as well. You ended up being a 78, but the CPU chose to go with the younger guy. So you will be starting for the Gunners. So
congrats.
Congratulations to you. Thunderbirds by far the hardest schedule. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you guys definitely do have some tough games, but yeah, we'll be able to see. You know, I would have to say, out of all the coaches that I've had, Coach Kozer has put in the most work as far as working on his playbook and everything. I mean, he's been working ever since he's been accepted as a head coach. I mean, he's been working on this playbook to fit his scheme of his players and everything. And if there's anybody I feel that can, still win with a tough season like you got, I feel like you could do it. So, don't feel too bad about guys you got to face this season. Just keep doing your thing. So I guess the Explorers make the postseason. Yep, the Explorers made the postseason last season. Smitty, what's your opinion on Thomas Anthony since he was there new? Okay. Oh yeah, Thomas Anthony. I think he's a pretty good quarterback. I think he's as a backup. I can't remember exactly where he landed at, but yeah, he's a good backup. The Diablos. Yeah, he ended up going to the Diablos though. And I think he will be backing up Chumlee. So what happens when the RFL team play when the RFL team plays one of the NFL teams? It's a simulated win. We don't, I won't stream that. It'll just be an automatic win. I give all the teams against the NFL teams an automatic win, so it doesn't affect teams for a playoff shot. Every team will get a win, so a loss to out of the random to an NFL team won't mess them up. So that's how I go about that. What's your opinion on the signing of undrafted running back Ricky Flores? I think he would be a good running back as a backup for Reggie Cromartie-Smith, who was the starter for the Condors. And they had a former they drafted another running back, Kent Bollinger, but I don't think that from his overall, he came in as an undrafted rookie, and you actually have the opportunity there. You are starting over him, actually. So I think he'll actually be a good backup back there for Cromartie-Smith. Thank you. No problem. What's good, Obey Kid? That's another guy right there. I was talking earlier. What did I say, Mike? Dariantre Machiavelli, the receiver.
Yeah.
That was actually the wrong guy I was talking about. It was Obey Kid. That's the guy who's 6'4" for the Red Dragons. That's really going to be.
Oh yeah, the speedster.
Yeah, and he's fast. And then Dariantre Machiavelli is, 4th, so he'll be able to get in on those 4 wide, or 4 or 5 wide, formations, and all of them are good. So I think the Red Dragons definitely had a good draft as well. So appreciate you coming through, my guy. Said Voyagers will play anybody, bring it. Yeah, love the confidence right there, Coach Donnell Brown. Hoping that you change that franchise around, man. What's good, Coach Armstrong? There goes the head coach for the Sentinels.
We're getting all the coaches in here.
Yeah. Glad y'all were able to make it by. I can't wait to see what you guys do with you guys' team. And that's another rule. Of course, I don't know if I made it known in the Discord, but for coaches, the way you get fired in this league is if you have 2 back-to-back losing seasons, you got to go. So that's how it goes. You get fired after 2 back-to-back losing seasons. If you lose one and you win one, you're safe. But
that's pretty realistic.
Yeah. If you lose 2 seasons back-to-back, not only do you get fired, but you have to sit out a season after that in order to apply for a job again. So that gives other people opportunities, to be able to coach as well. And if somebody is able to join them, maybe we can work something out. But that's where I'm standing with it so far. You said I got a question for you, Mike. You said, Mike, if you want to interview me, you can.
Okay, yeah, we'll have to set those up. I'm not going crazy with the RFL Network interviews because with those interviews, I want them to be longer. I want them to be, thorough interviews instead of just 2 or 3 questions. So I'm only going to be planning, maybe 2 or 3, maybe 2 a week, honestly.
Yeah, and when you was talking about the RFL, are you talking about making your own channel so that you could for the RFL Network, so that way you can go live and actually put people on the show yourself? Or
No. Just recording pre-recorded podcasts and then having them posted at the RFL channel.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Okay, well, that's cool. So that should be interesting.
Yeah, I'm doing my first episode tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
It's gonna be bold predictions and just a lot of just talk around the league and just kind of creating hype on certain situations, and that's where we'll really go, and that's where I'll really go in depth on like matchups and everything, and just going more in detail that we generally don't have time for on these kind of podcasts.
Yeah, I like that idea. So that's a really good idea. Can't wait to see it, man.
Yeah, it'll be cool. I'm excited about it. I'm just excited about giving everybody another way to kind of connect and stay into it. I mean, because for me, I 24/7, I always want, I always have to stay connected. You know what I mean? Like, and stay up to date on everything. So I figured, a podcast, doing a weekly podcast with bold predictions and, just matchups and everything would kind of give everybody a little bit more of a like a look behind the scenes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel you. Yeah, that's a good idea, man. We could definitely go with that. I think that'll definitely add another level, to the RFL. Um,
Plus, everybody
well,
needs to go follow the RFL Network Twitter.
oh yeah, if you haven't, because I've seen he followed a couple guys back. Usually, as a as a business, you don't gotta follow guys; they supposed to follow you. But uh,
Yeah,
yeah, make sure if you got a follow request from the RFL Network, which is ran by Mike here. Make sure you follow back, and that's where a lot of news, interviews, and things like he said will be coming in the future. Um, and we got a question here. Duke Pascal will start at middle line. I think Duke Pascal, from what I've seen, will be starting for the Huskies, but of course it all depends on the coach, which I'm pretty sure Coach is like, yeah, he's going to be starting. So you
that's
got
gonna be so. That's a, that looks like it's gonna be the best defense in the RFL.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, I don't see anybody's defense that stacked. Well, I ain't gonna lie. There's a couple that I've seen overall wise, but they just did not play like as good as the Huskies did a season ago. But we'll see. I think they'll definitely be. They're gonna be a nice defense in there for sure.
Yeah, those two. I mean, God, like Duke coming in right next to what's his name? What's the other linebacker's name?
Brett Rattay.
Yeah, Rete. He's a beast too. Like, God, that's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, I remember we was talking in the last podcast about Proctor. Now he's not even irrelevant.
Yeah,
We got kicked out of the mix, and now they just made their defense just even that much better.
yeah, it's crazy.
But yeah, just a few more questions here, and then we're gonna close out because this is definitely getting lengthy. So, what if you want to coach another team? Now, you can't coach more than one team. You only could coach one at a time because that leaves opportunities for other people to be able to join as coaches as well as this league expands. Um, There's for Bear is a coach, Forsey, former coach of the Condors. Definitely don't just want to give us his business out there, but prayers go to him and hope everything goes okay as he had to leave the Condors as head coach. But the last question I'm going to answer right here, he said, I'm going to dedicate my season to coach. Okay. Well, yeah, that's going to do it, you guys. No more questions that we'll be answering as we'll finish out this podcast with that. A lot of information we sent to you guys' way. Like I said, tomorrow I'm going to try my best to try to upload the schedule. No, yeah, the schedule on each team's individual page on the website so you guys can see it. If you don't want to just, go back and watch this whole stream, which is long, but yeah, it should be, a lot of things are coming in this league in the future. So make sure you check that out. And with that, we'll see you guys next time. Peace. Am I on the right thing right here? Okay.
There you go. Like, are we off?
Now I'm out.
All right,
Peace.
cool.